we are live on Facebook. Thank you so much, Carmel. Yay. Welcome, Carmel, to our beautiful, amazing, supportive. I'm in love with my group, my gorgeous parents. I've got 1,600 parents that I support on the Empowered Parents group. We have lots of events that we put out here, and I've begun to interview experts now because I see they bring in their flavors and are able to offer their perspective, because so much is about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our beliefs, our pains, our challenges come from our perspective. And the way we choose to see a challenge or see an issue that we feel we are facing is so limited to our perspective. So my intention with our interview today is to bring your perspective, so our viewers and listeners can know that there's so many more ways that we can perceive a situation or a challenge. So today we are talking about mums, entrepreneurial mums wanting to grow a business and feeling challenged with the priority, and it's a genuine priority of prioritizing our kids, because that's important. They're dependent on us. It is their formative years. So it does provide a big challenge, and it's a very valid challenge. So I'd like to hear your perspective. Tell us a little bit about you, your journey. How old were your kids when you started this journey? We know that your kids are much older today and you've been through, so you're going to give us that much of an insight. What we'd also like to hear from you is, what would you do different given what you know today?
Oh, gosh. Big question, that one. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So where do I start?
Take it away, Carmel.
Okay, so people will hear I have an accent. So I'm actually from Ireland, and moved to Australia almost 33 years ago, actually, with a 6-year-old and an 8-month-old daughter with my then ex-husband. So it was a big change, as I'm sure you know yourself, Yolanda, moving to another country. Although we spoke the same language, oh my God, I had different sayings that the people here didn't understand, and that. So just moving countries and actually trying to even get a job, because you didn't have the family support here anymore. I did have an uncle here, but of course he and my cousins were kind of over the other side of the city. So I didn't have somebody that I could say, can you look after the kids while I go to work? My ex-husband was working during the day, and I had to take a job, an afternoon shift, actually in a Toyota garage. I was building cars. So I took that. So there was always a 2 or 3 hour slot. We found some great neighbors, but there was always a scaredness of, leaving your kids with people that you don't know. As you say, you really know their formative years. But we were very fortunate. So that was kind of the beginning, I guess, of it. There was always something in me that I knew I wouldn't stay in my hometown. I always had a niggle, is the best way to describe it. And we came to Australia, then we moved back to Ireland, then we came back to Australia. Wow. We did all this stuff. And I supported my ex-husband then in a lot of ways. He started his own business, which was he was a plumber, and building stormwater pits and things like that. So I was going to do the books while he was doing that. And let me put it out there, I'm no good at bookkeeping. But there you go. But we have this dream of, if I just start my own business, isn't it going to be fine? But as you say, with the kids and whatever, it's kind of like juggling that bouncy ball. And quite often, as we know, a new business doesn't bring in the finances that we needed to. So I still had to work. So then I started working. My background has been hospitality since I was 15 or 16. So I could always jump in and work in a pub, or at that time in Australia, I was working in the pokies and things like that. So I had to get a license to do. But it often meant that the kids would be in between this, dad working all day and mom working at nighttime. So there wouldn't really be, in hindsight, but I think now, that nurturing mom and dad together environment, because we couldn't. We felt we had to survive.
Yep.
So fast forward a lot of years, myself and my ex-husband ran hospitality venues together. So again, there was always that, I don't want to just do a job, I want to do something else. So we were trying to find our way, but didn't quite know how. But then after that, again, I remember working till 3 a.m. I'd still have to be up at 8 a.m. to bring my son to cricket. You know, the
How
kids
did
who
your
wanted
kids
them.
cope with this, Carmel?
Look, my kids were very, in hindsight, is a great thing. At the time, I thought they were very resilient. And I do believe children are quite resilient. However, now that I look back and I see the adults they are today, there's certainly things, I don't have regrets about my life, but there's certainly things that I would change.
You would change.
Because, you know, you don't get that time ever back again. But on top of that was the guilt. And some of it comes from my background. I'm Irish, little good Irish Catholic girl, no matter what happens, you have to do your stuff. So fast forward to myself and my ex-husband, we split. So then I became a single mom. And I'm trying to keep all the balls in the air. Again, have this niggle of something. So I used to run a soccer club canteen, for example. It was our own business. They rented out the space to us with another young girl. I studied child psychology because I thought, I know I'm not doing the best I can for my kids. How can I understand them from a psychological level? So I studied child psychology, but that had to finish because we moved country again. So there was a lot of stuff going on, but there was always no matter what happens, I have to put my children first. So when I became a single mom, I pinned the idea of growing a business. I had to pin it because I was living in fear of not having a roof over my head, to be quite honest. So
and
I had
fears
to.
can come up a lot when we're kids and trying to step out of our comfort zone and start businesses. Fear of the unknown, because it's more than just us. It's these young kids who are dependent on us, and we are holding, especially as single moms. I'm a single mom too, and if I drop the ball, I have the risk of not having food on my table.
Yeah. And you're so right. The thing about it is you can kind of do without that yourself, because we do. We put our kids first and they always get the best. However, when you're making those decisions, you're right, you can't make them when you have 3. So I have 3 children. So you can't make them when you have 3 children relying on you. So I became mom of bringing them as they got a bit older. They had some part-time jobs, they had their sports, they had parties, they had whatever. So I had to work full-time and try and see how else can I escape this humdrum while supporting my kids. You know, and it is really the perception of me at that time. So I'm a different person now than I was there, was certainly fear. Because I was afraid if I put a foot wrong, that my kids would suffer.
Yeah.
And that was an absolute no-no.
So also, let's acknowledge the fear then. Yeah, we need to acknowledge the fear in order to move forward. We need to acknowledge the fear. And as they say, 90% of our fears are not valid. Is it true that I will not have food on my table? It's a fear, but it's not true.
No, absolutely.
There's a lot that will happen before we come to that point.
Yeah, all fear is forward facing when you think about it. Fear in this moment where you are right now, is there anything to be afraid of? No, it's about what happens if. Yeah, so we it's easy to look back on it, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because in the moment, had you asked me, there would have been, no, I have to do this. My ex-husband, through whatever circumstances, wasn't great at supporting after we split. So I was the only person. It was just, and that fear was so almost tangible. I could taste it. To the extent I remember, and you know, we talk about defining moments. I worked for a person who had a bit of an alcohol problem, and he would sack me every 3 or 4 months when he was drunk. So talk about, you know, you have the fear anyway, and then you have this fear of somebody doing that. And they were the kind of things that drove me to go, no more.
This fear is real.
No more. The fear was real, but it was like the want to do something better, to be something better, to create something better for my children became bigger than the fear.
And that's key. That's what drives us. And that was my situation too, because I had no other way out. I had to make this work.
Yes.
Had I had options, they would actually not serve me. Of course, at that time, I would have loved to have options. But in reality, as we look back, and my kids are still 21 and 15, I had the fears, but I had no choice but to question them, ride over them, get money to invest in mentors that I didn't have, because I knew that I had to make it work,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to settle for mediocre.
No, no. And it's a very powerful space to be in when you get to that. And
Thank
when
you for
that,
acknowledging. It's a very
Yeah.
courageous journey. Yes.
it's a hard one, but do you see how that desire for you to make that work became bigger than the fear?
That's it.
And it had
Spot
to,
on.
it had to come bigger than the fear, because otherwise, and when you think about all the things we've done in life, it's like that butterfly coming out from the cocoon, isn't it? It has to go through the discomfort and the pain. I was actually just on the call and we were talking about discomfort. If we can manage, and this is one tip, if any, single mom, or whether they're single or married, but they're thinking, if we can manage to reframe discomfort, that is key in how you do it. Because we frame discomfort as I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to do it, I resist it. However, discomfort is actually the little thing that tells you you're on the right track. Because if you're not uncomfortable, well, then you're not growing. You're staying in that little comfort zone. And we're designed to, if our comfort zone was like this, we're kind of almost programmed to, if we go 10% above the comfort zone, it's like, oh, it's too uncomfortable, and we'll bring ourselves back. And the same as we decompensate and we go 10% below, if we lost 10% of our revenue, suddenly we go, oh my God, I have to get it back. So we stay in that comfort zone, which is more like a girdle. So when we start to actually get uncomfortable and reframe it as, that means I'm learning something new, that means I'm stretching outside the mediocre, that's a key thing. And it's once you get it, you get it. But before that, people are going, oh, it's too uncomfortable, I don't want to, or I don't want to upset anyone, or I don't want to upset my mom, or my dad says that I shouldn't be doing this, I should mind the kids. And we have all of this as well.
The other thing I wanted to look at today was guilt. I think guilt is a big one with parents and moms juggling, raising kids and business. So what is your perspective on managing guilt?
Great
because
question.
It's a big one. It comes up, doesn't it?
Oh, look, it comes up a lot. And look, not to blame my background, but again, being an Irish Catholic, your guilt is instilled in you, guilt and shame. And I always remember my dad. So I'm from a family of 5 daughters. So 5 daughters, my mom and dad in a 2-bedroom house, which after they built onto it, because we sold it recently, it's 57 square meters was the whole size of the house. Like it was. Wow. And my dad used to always say, just make sure your mom is all right. Make sure that your mom is all right. All his life, he was always telling us that. But there was a guilt attached to it if you said this to your mom, or if you did this wrong, or if you walked on a crack in the pavement. So when it's instilled in you then that you have these values of family is so important, and I'm not for a moment saying it's not, we carry that baggage with us, which is the guilt and the shame and the fear and everything, because that's what we've been taught. That's the environment we've been in. But there are different times now. So the guilt can quite often manifest it in that we try and give our kids everything we didn't have. We actually will limit ourselves in order to give to them first. And society will tell you that's the right thing. There's only one place in society that actually, in our current society, that tells you to do the right thing, which is put your mask on first when you get in a flight.
That's right, yeah.
Because no matter how much guilt or shame or fear, and I think those 3 things are very relevant for especially a single mom, that no matter how much of them you have, they are only being detrimental to you and not helping you be the best version of the person you need to be for those kids. Because the best thing you can do for your children is to actually show them, not tell them. And it's how you're showing. And look, as I said, it's not a thing that I did perfectly.
It is what empowered parenting stands for. Empower moms to empower their kids. We first focus on ourselves, and we do need to cover this hurdle of guilt, because many of us, I don't think there's many who haven't who don't have this instilled in us that if you don't put your kids or your family first, it's
There's something
there
wrong
is
with you.
guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you are
And
right
a
thing.
lot of that also comes with, and again, it's a societal thing. It's not just quite often as women, we think that we are the only ones. Why am I feeling so guilty? Look at her. She has everything together, blah, blah, blah. Because we compare ourselves to somebody else. And we can't do that because you don't have my life experiences, nor do I have yours or my values. But we do compare, and we're taught in society to compare. Look at magazines, everything, and all these perfect things. So we're taught to compare our body to that size. We're taught to look at that woman
And
with those
social media
perfect.
today, the rampant use of social
Oh,
media isn't helping. So being aware and us coming to our own worthiness is key more than any time
absolutely.
ever.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, it's amazing what you do, but it's not always taught in the mainstream. It'll be superficially taught because they feel they should say that. However, it's not actually taught on a deep level. And it's about changing your actual outlook, like your perception, as you said. If the unconscious mind is so strong, and it is, that we can't tell the difference between what is imagined and what's real. Because if you imagine something enough, you can almost make it real. You can feel it in your body, you can make it real. Well, if that's the case, can I imagine myself to be another way that's going to support and empower me and my kids rather than disempowering? And quite often we don't know. And that's why, again, I'm so glad you do the work you do, because we can't always see our own guilt. We beat ourselves over with a big stick and go, why aren't I doing that? What's wrong with me? Maybe as a new mom, I can't breastfeed. There must be something wrong with me. Or like when you trust that the journey is the journey for those children and for yourself, and whatever learnings along the way, you have been chosen to be their parent for a very specific reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And spot on with that, I would like, if you could, I not put you on a spot here, but can you share some empowering affirmations that you believe mums can use to keep them moving forward on this journey?
Oh, okay. Yes, you have put me on the spot.
Yeah.
So you mean for them to say, look, I'm a bit of a post-it note person, so I'll have a post-it note on my wall.
I'm a big post-it note
fridge
person as well.
Yeah,
I love
or
that.
it'll be written on my mirror. So the first thing, as we discussed earlier, is looking after yourself. So some of the affirmations are that I am worthy, I love myself, blah, blah, blah. It needs to start with you first.
Absolutely.
And then it's about, I am the best parent that those kids need right now. Because
I love that one. I love that one.
You
what
absolutely
we say is your kids chose you to be the perfect parent they needed on their journey, with all your limitations, with all your challenges. Your kids chose you to be the perfect parent on their journey. So you're already perfect.
Yeah.
There's nothing more.
I call it uniquely imperfectly perfect in every single way. I was, again, just on a call. It's so synchronistic when you're going something, you come in, you go, oh my God, that yes. So we were talking about doubt or guilt or whatever. And what was shared was, you can't have doubt and belief at the same time. So it's like going into a garage, a big empty shed. You can turn the light on or you can turn it off. And it's a little bit as the same with guilt and shame and whatever. So we can, I know it sounds weird when we say we decide to, but when we are experiencing guilt, we can decide to turn that switch on or off, because we can't experience empowerment and guilt at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. So we're always making choices. Even if we don't know it, we're always making choices. So guilt is a choice. And when we know that, the same way, overwhelm is a choice. Guilt is a choice. And why we choose to let it go is because as we do, for me, I see guilt as a burden unconsciously we put onto our kids. If we take actions from an energy of guilt, it is a burden that we place on our kids. Like, I have done this for you. In, like you said, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
We're choosing to put ourselves first and come from a place of self-love. We are giving from an overfilling cup. which raises kids to not be entitled. Entitled kids come from raising them from, oh, I need to do this for you because there's guilt within me, there's unworthiness within me.
Yeah.
So we doing ourselves and our kids a massive favor if we can choose to let go and make new choices without guilt.
And yeah, you would know this as well. When you start making those choices, as I did, so my kids would have been teens when I started really looking at, I want to build a business. What am I doing? Just for me. It actually, again, going back to the actions and being that person, it actually empowers them to think, well, you're a bit older and you're doing this, but so can I. So we actually empower them to believe that nothing is impossible.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you so much, Carmel. There was so many valuable insights we covered on fears, and fears are valid and how we can rise above them. We talked about guilt today. We talked about juggling, how you juggled through and the challenges we face. And when you reflect back, you look at the perspectives and make new choices. So I think in many ways we covered on choices as well.
If I can say one last thing, if anybody gets this, is to remember, somebody said it to me, it's so simple, but it really has stayed with me, to remember to be kind to yourself. Like, it sounds so simple, but if you can stop when you're in whatever and go, where am I being kind to myself right now? It can actually change everything. It's quite often we overcomplicate it. We just justify, but you don't know what happened to me, blah, blah. It's like, where can I be kind to myself right now? Can change everything.
Beautiful. And that's a beautiful closing message for all of the parents out there, to start with kindness to yourself. Where can I, let's become curious, where can I be more kind to myself?
Yeah.
Because such a beautiful gift to give our kids, a kind mom.
Oh, absolutely.
The energy of a kind mom in a home is just divine.
But you're showing them how to be kind to themselves, which
Absolutely.
is what we want. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Carmel.
That's okay.
It's a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to staying connected with you. Do you want to share a little bit about you, what you do for the entrepreneurial moms out there? How do you support?
Sure. I support actually mostly women, but they've gone through all of that, and they're quite powerful, strong women. So I support them to get the right message to the right person at the right time.
That's right.
Because otherwise we're going around in a circle. And they can contact me on Facebook, on my website, wherever that works for them. Yeah, it's awesome.
You are the communication queen.
Yay!
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
having to all of our viewers out there. Please put in comments if there's any questions you have for the gorgeous Carmel, questions for myself. We will be looking out for your questions and we will be responding to them. A little bit about other events coming up. We have a masterclass coming up in our group, How to Not Mess Up Your Kids. Click on the link below if you'd like to be part of our masterclass. And if not, we have our workshop happening, a 90-minute emotional resilience for parents raising emotionally resilient kids. Because like we discussed just before, we cannot give what we don't have. We need to be kind to ourselves so we can raise kids to be kind to themselves and kind to those around them. Similarly, in order to raise emotionally resilient kids, we need to learn emotionally resilient skills for ourselves, which is what our 90-minute workshop is covering on the 22nd of June. So lots of events here. I've got 3 free tickets at every event. So do put in a thumbs up or yes, just say yes to receive a free ticket if you would like to learn what being emotionally resilient and being an empowered parent is all about. Do you have any events coming up,
yes, actually, one of the things is, as we know, video is going crazy. So I have a free workshop or a free webinar actually coming up Friday, the 11th of June. There's 3 different times. I'm happy to share them with you.
Please.
And so come in there. It's 3 different times. We'll be talking about the top 5 videos to use in your marketing now, because we know video, we should be using it, but it's like how to use, what to use, what kind of videos to use, so that we can get the interaction that we need. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
So
Thank you
much.
for that.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.